Introduce himself to the camp.
Funny, I automatically yeah, that's why I was like, I should know. I was gonna say take the knife to children on night. I'm not sure if you know a video game where they're at night.
Hello! Oh man, sorry, I'm gonna move a little bit. I feel very far away from my friends. Okay, there. That's more cozy. Hey, how's everybody doing? Even at a panel, you guys say woo. That's a concert thing. I guess it's not a normal panel thing to be like, how's everybody doing tonight? Woo, VidCon! Yeah. So can't never stop performing, you guys. That's the wrong button. So we're going to talk about, I think online video in general has had an independent streak, which is lovely. Eventually you get to the point where you're like, I'm gonna die. And hopefully that also coincides with a moment where you can have somebody who's helping you out in some way. And for a lot of us for some of us that started at the beginning. For some of us it started way late in the game. And so we're gonna talk about that process. And also from the perspective, hopefully it will be informative if you might be interested in working with one of the companies that's producing stuff specifically for the internet because you're into that world, which maybe, I don't know, seems likely. That's sort of like my dual prong here. Like if you're making stuff and you're thinking like maybe someday I don't want to be doing this just by myself, or if you're thinking about like how do people who are hiring people in the space think about that, and what are they looking for and terrified of, because hiring people, it is important to, I have, now that I've done it some, I'm like, oh, now I know how I should have interviewed for jobs. I never, it's important to put yourself in the shoes of the people hiring because it is a stressful and scary thing for them as well. But first I'm going to introduce you to my panelists. Here we have Harley.
Thank you for having me.
Harley has a very famous beard and also show about food. You made a lot of different kinds of content over the years, in a lot of different mediums, and I think lots of people are fans of it, including me. So thank you. This is Rafi Fine, who has a significantly less famous beard.
Significantly more media on mediums.
Yeah. And your company has grown. I'll let you guys talk about your companies in our first round of questions. But you have been making stuff on YouTube since before there was YouTube. So making online videos since before YouTube existed, but have built a really big company doing lots of different sorts of things. And we have Megan, Strawberry 17. Who I first met maybe at the Project for Awesome in 2009.
It's true.
Yeah, and we danced.
I was a super big fan, and I couldn't believe I was meeting you, and that was the best day ever.
And she's been making content on YouTube for a long, long time, but as more recently started to do it super professionally, making lots and lots of content with a really great team. And finally, you have Bernie Burns of Rooster Teeth. Also been making online videos since before YouTube was a thing.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive and remarkable that we
Before
have.
you could watch a video inside a web browser, you had to
Yeah.
download it and watch it in a separate player.
Yeah. So I feel intimidated by this panel of super smart people. So let's just go down the line and tell us a little bit about like the sort of size of your team, what you mostly produce, and what most of the people do at your place.
By the way, Megan just said to me, she said when I said you had to watch it outside of web browser, she goes, I don't even know what that means. It basically means I'm super, super old. That's it.
I'm Harley, Epic Mealtime. Now we have about a team of 12. You know, half the people are on camera and working in production. The other half of people are doing things like merchandise or, you know, business strategies, things like that. So it's come a long way from when it first started, where I was basically wearing 15 hats at the same time. So pretty happy with how far Epic Mealtime has come, how far, you know, how much infrastructure I have. And I wish, if I knew then what I know now, things would have been different, or, you know, grown faster or differently, or who knows what. But ultimately, I learned a lot of lessons the hard way by basically being like, oh, well, that was a mistake, like maybe 400,000 times. So I'm really happy where we're at now. And yeah, I mean, like it's crazy that, you know, I used to do so many things, and now there's all these people doing all these different things, and then, you know, we could do more things, like the Fine Brothers.
We are Fine Brothers Entertainment.
Is the mic working? Yeah.
We are Fine Brothers Entertainment, and we currently are at 60 employees. And mostly, if that being the question of like, mostly it's in the production process from pre-production all the way through post and upload and social to get the content out on YouTube. But we also have a lot of the things from growing to that size. We've definitely had to build out other aspects of the team, from you know, IT to even human resources. It's some nice grown-up stuff, like you keep growing your company. But we also have, you know, business development team, a small business development team, a small television team.
What is business development?
Business development for us is more focused, at least, on the brand integration and ad sales side, but it also is pretty much searching out for new opportunities and relationships to build new business in other areas. So you have our business on YouTube, but obviously we could have business in a lot of other places, and you continue to try to find and seek out those things. But yeah, I mean, then, you know, we have these teams that obviously, we also have 175 or so reactors, but that's like almost like a separate almost team of people that are all of our reactors that we work with. And then whenever we have a television show and such, of course, then those become their own little businesses in their own right of bringing on like 50 people to shoot something like our YouTube Red show or our Nickelodeon show or True TV. Like, you have to make those into their own whole businesses as well. So it kind of rises and falls, kind of like VidCon rises and then it's like goes back down.
Yeah, so we have like 8 employees for most of the year, and then for
And
3
our
days we have
GMs.
800.
Hello. So I have around 6 employees. Definitely not 60. That's kind of crazy. I don't even know what they would do. But I started to hire people to be a part of Strawberry 17 when I first went on the Amazing Race, because they told us we had to disappear for a whole month, and I'm like, excuse me, I do YouTube. That's impossible. Everyone's gonna know if I disappear. And I started off with interns at first, because I'm like, you know, let's see, people want experience, and having a YouTuber's name on your resume, it goes a long ways, especially in LA. And through that, we have some really amazing people who were a part of the very first round of my internship. I have a producer who was at first my assistant, Lena Madrid. She's amazing. She helps us get everything done. And then we have a graphic designer, an editor, someone who handles our streams and all of our social. We have someone who handles the security, like in case anything gets hacked. He's like the best. He's in England, and he's like Liam Neeson, basically. Anything goes missing, he is on it. He's the best. And then I have my assistant. So we're a relatively small team, but everyone knows everyone's job. I feel like that's super important. That way we can manage expectations, and no one's ever expecting someone to get something done super quickly because they know the time that it takes to go into it. And we produce a lot of content. I think our record is we did 107 episodes in 1 week. When you're spending, when you are spending your own money, you definitely feel that urge to be like, okay, let's see, we have a 12-hour day. How much can we get done within that time? And I have the 6 employees, but when we're in production, we definitely hire our own crew that is separate just for that time. We try and film out content 3 months in advance and have that run. That way, if I'm on a TV show or if I'm doing extra jobs like voice acting or I need to do hosting, I have the time to do that and also set up a lot more business meetings. But that's our model. We're small, but we pack a powerful punch. We can get stuff done. Yeah, Strawberry 17.
And like Hank said, Rooster Teeth started a long time ago in 2003. It started in a spare bedroom in my house in Buda, Texas, population 3,000. It started really as 3 people, but we were an ensemble to begin with, so there was really about 5 of us at the beginning producing content for the web before YouTube existed. And now, fast forward about 14 years, we're 230 people. We work in an airplane hangar. And that growth has been incredible. It's afforded us a lot of opportunities to make lots of different content, higher production value content, but it also comes with huge challenges as well. I mean, when I started doing this, I was working with 4 of my friends, and we did everything for the first 6 years of the company before we hired like anybody outside that group really, on a business level at least. So it's weird to go from that tight-knit group of people in a spare bedroom in your house to then, like, I had an experience earlier this year where, because I had been traveling a little bit, I had been out of the office and there had been some new hires, and I had an experience I had never had the entire time I'd worked at the company, which is someone who I had never met and didn't know came up to me and asked me where somebody whose name I didn't recognize was. And I was like, that is really strange for me. They were like, hey, Bernie. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, where's Philip? And I'm like, oh, I don't know where Philip is. And then they ran away, and I said to my friend, I go, who was that person? Who is Philip? It can be really challenging, we deal with a lot of people all the time, but it's great because when we started doing all this stuff, we all had / job titles. I was the writer / director / t-shirt designer / forum moderator, And so now we have people, we have a marketing team where there's marketing people and there's PR people and a social media person, and I go, isn't that all the same job? So it's interesting. So it's the growth. It's especially for a web content group, 200 plus people seems like a lot of people, but for a normal company in the world, growing to 200 people over the course of 14 years isn't exactly explosive growth, but it's definitely different for the online video environment for sure.
It seems pretty explosive to me. To be on the panel as well as moderating it, we have 2 teams that make SciShow, like one team for SciShow and one team for Crash Course. Those teams both have about 10 people on them, and they're great folks. And mostly people who are working like physically on editing and producing and doing graphics for the videos, but also on writing them, which is a very important job for educational stuff. You don't want to mess that up when you're trying to teach somebody the truth. You don't want to teach them the false. So there are a few people on the panel who started off with like kind of your first employee, like Bernie was saying. Like it starts off as a small team instead of starting off so like you already sort of like have this team that is like built immediately. For me and Rafi, our first employee was our brothers. And we were their first employees because it was...
Wait, actually, I would probably say that I'm Benny's employee. Like he wanted to do it first, and then
Okay,
he's
that's
the older
me
brother.
too. Yeah,
Older brother was like,
I was the
roping me in.
Yeah, I was the first employee of our company as well. If that's how. If that's how we
Benny
measure.
and John are not here. You guys can take total credit for all that.
So that's a really and I don't know about Harley and Megan.
No, I have a brother too, and he works with me.
You what?
I also have a brother that works with me. He's my partner.
Oh, I did not know that.
No, we don't bring him. We don't bring him around.
Oh God. So
Basically, hire your brothers.
yeah, sibling teams. Sibling teams is good.
My brother was my first employee.
Really?
Yeah, he would dance.
So
I mean,
if your
dude,
parents
so-
only had one kid, you're just. Yeah, you're hosed. Thank you for giving a word that is allowed to say. Hosed.
I just want to say, if somebody wants to hire my brother, he could really use a job. So.
So a lot of times it's not like I need to build a team. Who am I going to hire? It's I want to work with these people who I like a lot, or who I am genetically related to and am required to like by my mother. Let's talk about that. Like, how do you start out a thing with people when you are having a creative project, when you're going to have different opinions, when you don't know exactly how to split the money that you might be making, and like when those relationships get hard, what do you do? Go.
Well, I think in our case, when we started out with Rooster Teeth, we kept those / job titles way too long. Longer than we should have, or really longer than we needed to. But I think honestly, our mental attitude was we had to do it. That it was kind of baked into our culture that, for instance, the guy who runs our Let's Play network, Jeff, him being able to focus on the Let's Play network has just made that thing absolutely explode in the last few years. But for a long time, Jeff was a co-machinimator, he was an events coordinator, he was also the guy who made sure all of our beanies were in stock in the online store. And it's like freeing him up to do, what his passion is and focus on it, and having someone else who manages that, that's great. But for us, it was like, we waited too long, and it's like, you have to identify those things early. For us, I think we waited till it was too much of a source of pain and overhead to where we have to have somebody else help us do this finally. But if we had done it earlier, it would have been to our great advantage.
But what about when it was just the 5 of you? Did you never argue? Who was in charge? Like John and I have disagreements sometimes, and who is in charge often ends up being whichever person feels most strongly. And which is weird when you're the brother who maybe feels things a little less strongly. And eventually you're like, well, I guess you just always win. That's not true. I've won things. So how do you do that when it's a small team and like you're doing a thing together because you love it, not because not because there's a bunch of people working for one person?
I think a lot of businesses online start as a show and then grow into a business from there, and ours was certainly that case. And so being the writer and director of the show that we were all working on, it just kind of naturally fell in place that I was leader. I say it up here, naturally, it fell in place that I was leader. I'm sure anyone else in the company say that asshole just took control and told us what to do. But, it's just one of those things where those defined things, we had friends that were all working at the company, so we had to navigate those relationships. And over the course of 13 years, that's been a challenge as well. But I never had to navigate like a brother familial relationship in the company, luckily.
When you said about brother-wise, it's kind of similar to us. Whoever's more passionate about something, we literally say, who cares more about this than the other? And we kind of figured out from there. But that was very early stuff compared to now. But I would say kind of in the early goings of hiring and thinking about who to bring on, like maybe jumping into that kind of idea, I think that we needed to start understanding how do we scale even from when we were just 2 brothers, and then we're kind of trying to figure out how do we make another video a week and different things like that. And I think that we didn't end up bringing on more people that had that power and similar to us that would have the one that would maybe originate the show idea or have full oversight over creative. We were instead trying to find ways to bring on people that would help us take hours off our plate that we already knew we could save by having somebody. So I think that's why you tend to see a lot of people get editors for the first times about the editor being one of the first hires in order to, even if it saves you 2 hours from your day, you're going to still have to sit down with that editor. You're still going to be doing something. You're still able to save down 2 hours from you assembling that stuff, ingesting that footage, etc. But it took us a while to bring on people, I think, that had their own interest and power over the content generally. And now we have waited way too long as well in various regards to take away a lot of our hats, but it's going really well now. We were finding our way away from being involved with a lot of the content, and it's like we should have done that probably a long time ago as well.
So my brother and I fought all the time. It was horrible. It was not good. Working with your little brother, especially when I first got started on YouTube, my claim to fame was lip dubs. So my brother would do like weird stuff in the background, and then I would make sure I'd get like the words right. So he'd jump out of a dumpster, or just do. I made him wear heels once out in public, and just really embarrassing things. So early on, like we learned that we do not work very well together. And honestly, I don't think he really is about that background dancer life. He's quite the star, and he needs to shine. So I think a few years ago we decided to kind of part ways and just let him do his own thing, and then I do my own thing. But my older brother works for me now, and you think that would be challenging, but I have 4 brothers too. I'm half Mexican, so like, I've got a baseball team. A lot of us, so if anyone needs a brother, I got you. But that relationship is so different. I have a very clear vision for what I want to do, and I think that makes it a little bit easier for me to be in a leadership position or be a boss, because there is no question, there is no compromise, there is no, what if we do this, or I don't like your idea. It's, no, we have this and we have this much time and we're getting it done no matter what. And that we are about that life, and we always get it done. That's kind of like our thing. We'll be like, we'll receive a bunch of bad news, and we'll be like, we're gonna get it done. We always get it done. We have like 5 hours to get this done. Let's do it. And I have an incredible team that has that mindset, and it's been a process. Hiring people in the very beginning is so crazy, and I'm so glad that we had our internship, because people would essentially work for free for the first 3 months. They could get college credit or letter of recommendation. And over that 3-month period, we really got to see people's character and their work ethic. And the ones that kind of rose above the rest and put in the extra hours, put in the extra work, and took it seriously, those are the ones that are part of the team now. Because, listen, I'm not like writing checks just because it's like, oh, money, here, have this, it's totally fine. Like, this is my livelihood. This is what I worked so hard for since 2007. So signing a check, this money that we make together as a team is our money. It's our hard work. It's our combined effort to make something great. So we all kind of feel that hit, and everyone takes a little bit more ownership in Strawberry 17. It never feels like I'm, or at least I hope not. Lena's over here, so maybe she would be like, yeah, no, that's true, Megan. Like I'm giving orders and they just have to do it because it's 9 to 5. Like we're in it and we're committed because we have hopes to do more shows. Like we love producing, we love creating, and the future is so bright for Strawberry 17, and we've shown a lot of people what we're capable of and what we can do. And I think that is great motivation, because everyone that's a part of our team, they're invested, they have ownership in Strawberry 17. When brand deals come in, we have incentives too, because I love my employees. Probably when we get bigger, this will change, but for the small core of us, they definitely get a percentage of every brand deal that we do, because that's a big chunk of money. And I used to hate when I worked a 9 to 5, and every single week my check would look the same. I'm like, man, I need to be like a Girl Scout or something, like sell some cookies so I can make some extra side money. That's why YouTube's so great, you can sell merch, you can do AdSense, you can do brand deals, you can do all these things. So I think it's important for my employees to feel that too.
So let's go down the line and what was everybody's first employee? I mean, you can you say you suggest editor. Mine was assistant, because at that time we weren't producing content in the way that you do. We were, I make a video. I don't want someone to edit Vlogbrothers for me. That was what we were doing then. And so I hired someone to help develop new stuff, but also like make me not fall completely apart. Like simple things like I had a cell phone contract that had expired, but I was still paying because I like the act of calling the company and canceling it. I was like, I do not have 20 minutes to save $70 a month. And when you reach that moment, you're like, well, that's good. I could save a lot of money if a person could call my cell phone company for me. And that person became, I hired him as an assistant, and he is now the chief operations officer of our company and co-runs VidCon. So that turned out real well. Who's the first person you paid money to?
So what's interesting is that like very first, we kind of had a reset. It was almost like at first we had an editor and that was like first hire, and it's almost like if I was thinking that way. But then when we kind of had when My Music happened with the original YouTube, the original YouTube Originals program, we ended up bringing on not your brother, but John Green, another John Green, who and it was another person that was almost like in a lot of ways a third brother that we knew could almost do anything and everything, but we needed somebody to actually handle like the operations and handle the money and trust somebody to be somebody that could, it was like something so specific of like who's going to be able to be as open and we could be transparent with every aspect of the company, and it was somebody that we trusted a lot, had worked with before, was a good friend, and like with somebody to bring on as another person when we could be more creative, we can continue to grow various things and have somebody that could be worrying more about the business side. So once we were able to get some capital from YouTube to make My Music, we were able to build out like 8 people at once. That was still our first hire to then help us figure out how to bring on the rest of the team. Mm-hmm. It's like a little different from like just one at a time. We were able to kind of grow a little bit bigger quickly.
In my case, with Epic Mealtime, I started a bunch of channels before, and I love editing. Editing is probably my favorite thing to do. And I would, set the camera up on a tripod, or I would, tell my buddy, I'd be like, hold this, I'd set all of it, I'd press the button, I'd be like, okay, don't move until I'm done what I gotta do, and then I'll go in front of the camera and do my thing. And I was doing everything, and I brought friends of mine onto the show, We were filming at a buddy's house, 2 of my friends knew how to cook, and the other guys were just funny and they wanted to hang out. And, then you fast forward like 9 months later, and I'm getting pulled in all sorts of directions, and literally what I did was I was like to everyone that was on the show, I'm like, hey, you're the funniest person after me, so you're gonna write these episodes. You could probably be the next best editor after me, so you're gonna edit these episodes. I don't know a thing about cooking and I don't wanna learn, so you guys keep doing the cooking thing. And we're also gonna film at your house all the time. And everyone will get money. And the thing that I realized with hiring friends, because I really like working with my friends, I think like, especially if I'm trying to be creative and someone isn't my friend, like I can't. Like all I'm gonna do is like, just get this guy out of the room. Like I can't, I'm not feeling the room even, I can't think like that. So I like working with friends, but the one thing is, as a friend, like let's say my friend Derek, not true, not a real person, but like let's say Derek sucks. I'm like, oh my God, Derek is so garbage right now. So you know what, I'm just fine. I don't need Derek in my life right now. I'm just gonna avoid Derek for 4 days. 5 days later, yo, Derek, what's up? Yeah, we can hang out, we're chilling again, it's cool. But the problem with working with your friends is you don't get those 4 days to do that. And about 5-6 years ago when Epic Mealtime first started, like when I would get that like Derek mode, where I'd be like, oh, like don't want to deal with Derek. The thing is like, Derek's editing the episodes now. So like I have to sit with Derek, like my friend, like even if we're like, and maybe he's like that with me, but we're trapped together. And because I never, as a friend, I would never sit down and be like, hey, Derek, you were kind of like, not cool yesterday, and now I'm feeling, as your friend, that maybe we could talk through this. That's just not what I do with my friends. I'm not that kind of guy, as you probably imagine, to talk through my feelings with my friends. But I realized down the line, when you're working together, like you gotta put that out there. Like you have to handle that stuff, because like, even if you don't like Derek, like Derek's not happy with your vibe standing behind him, like breathing deeply out of your nose. You don't really want to say anything to him except good. No, cut a bit before that. Yeah, let's put this at the front of the episode. So, I mean, that was something I learned, That threw me off. That's something I learned, like, 3 years down the line. I'm like, oh, I got to approach this. Like, I'm like in this boss leadership position. Like, I can't just be like, oh, just do what you got to do. Don't look at me, but we're gonna stand right next to each other for the next 4 days. That's one of the 400,000 things I learned the hard way.
First person, Megan?
It was assistant because like I knew how to edit. I liked editing. I knew exactly what I wanted. I would set the camera up, and this is what we were doing. So I just needed someone to help me with just like emails, my schedule, day to day. That for me felt like the most important thing.
It's funny, like, just knowing what you like doing. I didn't know what parts of my job I liked until I could hire someone to do the parts I didn't like. And like the moment, like, there was like, could I hire someone to edit a video for me? I was like, no, what? That's the part I like. I like editing. I don't know why. It's not, it doesn't seem like if I were to watch myself doing it, I'd be like, that's very boring. But it's never boring. It's very fun.
It also takes you out of the game like a lot. Like editing is just one of the most time-consuming things to do, and it's not like you could be on a phone call at the same time.
No, yeah. It's like you need a 2-hour block in which no one disturbs you. It's wonderful.
It's also, it is absolutely one of the most important parts of the process. If you let that go, you can change, what you're creating dramatically. So it's got to be a trust to do that. I mean, technically, I started as the one employee, and I was the only employee of the company for about 2 days, and then added 2 more people and 2 very quickly after that. So in the first week, we were basically at 5 people. But everything that we added for the first few years was just production based. That was it. I did some really dumb things, like early on, Rooster Teeth was, Bernie Burns doing business as Rooster Teeth. We weren't even a formal company. It was everything was run through me. The first thing we ever hired, and I would recommend that everybody look into this, was we hired a bookkeeper because we were filing taxes and we had an accountant, but I was doing all the bookkeeping for the company. And if you upload a YouTube video and you don't fill out the description, you'll get less views. If you don't file your income tax correctly, you go to federal prison. So probably a good idea to get some help in that regard. And that just similar to Hank's story. The woman that we hired to be our bookkeeper, she is now the COO of our company all these years later.
So when you're building a thing, when we first started hiring, one of the big mistakes I made was I thought about purely what people were capable of, and not also how they would fit in with how I would like working with them, and how they would fit in with what I wanted the company to be and how I wanted it to feel at the office. How do you think about that when you're hiring, and also sort of generally, aside from just pure skill and capability of the task you want them to accomplish, what are you looking for in a person when you're hiring?
I feel like they have to feel like family, and just because we are so small, maybe if it got bigger, then they'd be like distant relative. That's okay. But since it's only a few of us, we totally, like Harley said, we vibe off each other. So we have to be creative, we have to be positive. So people who feel like it's super easy to get along with, we can they're funny. That is always helpful because we're always making jokes. There's some really unfortunate things that happen at Strawberry 17. We ramped up this huge relaunch. We're all about hype. We were gonna do 4K content, and we worked on this trailer for way too long, and it looked perfect. It was great. We set it to go live, and everyone was hyped and excited about it. But guess what? We got the release date wrong at the very end, so it said 6/8/10 instead of 6/8/13, I believe. So just something really that's so silly, right? Yeah, we all lost it. We're like, no! But it's a funny thing to be able to laugh about because that was a really big moment for us. And if we weren't all family and couldn't all laugh at that, maybe someone would have gotten fired. But so those are kind of big things. And also too, it doesn't matter what if they don't know where they're headed or what they want to do. We'll put them in a position where they can they can fail or succeed and kind of figure it out from there. I think when you give people that opportunity, they become a lot more fearless in their endeavors, and they come up with a lot better ideas than maybe even I would be capable of. So that's how we become a stronger and better team, when you give them the opportunity to just try.
Okay. I think one of the values that our company has is to be a good person, capitalized good. We definitely came from various companies, from being our first experiences in Hollywood, and being with really, I wouldn't use the word evil, but really interesting experiences of how to use and abuse your employees, and use fear tactics, and very interesting ways that people thought it was to manage people and to bring people into your company, and the attitudes that you have, how to treat one another. And so I think first and foremost, yeah, you definitely are vibing with them to understand if in your company culture, if they're a good person, and they can get along with others. And I think, and that kind of starts from, I guess, on a lower level, but then you're thinking about that from management level, it kind of changes, and people that are running departments, I think it changes too, because, it comes with different, different departments have different abilities to let them manage how they manage, and I think that as you grow your company, you have to be smart about allowing for other ways to be running those departments, but for the most part, it's still the idea of you're looking for people that want to, if you, I guess, are starting from a lower level, that they have aspirational qualities and they really know what they want to do, and they're really excited about digital, if we're signing them and working with them on the digital side, or if it's from the television side, that's where their passions are, and you find out where their passions lie. And then on the side of more of management and running departments, that they're teachers and they're mentors, and they really love helping to nurture that talent, and that's one of the big things that we look for in that regard, especially because with the industry that we're all in, the revenue is still low, and in that regard, we end up bringing on a lot of amazing talent that's young and out of college, and sometimes their first jobs, and we need leaders that are going to come in that can be excited and passionate about motivating and inspiring the team, and teach them to be the next badasses that they are. Yes.
It's one of the most rewarding things about having people is not being whatever part of it, but watching them grow as in their position, and promoting people always seemed like a thing that just sort of happened. When I was outside of the management leadership part, it was just oh, you got a promotion. It's just a thing that happened. It's just oh, the dice of the universe rolled in your favor. Whereas now when I promote someone, it's because you are too good for your old job, and you did that. That was your work that got you there, and whatever role I played, I'm proud to have played. But I'm very, very pleased that you aren't we can no longer afford to keep you in the job that you are currently in, even though you were quite good at it. We have to have you doing a better job, or a more more advanced, more important job that you deserve to be paid more for. And that's a totally different perspective of how promotions work than I had previously imagined them. It's weird to be doing what I'm doing. How do you find good people? On that, you were talking about finding people in school, that's it can be, is it Craigslist? Is it people who you know telling you about people?
No, I was just going to say you could find good people on Craigslist, or you could get stabbed. So.
I mean, what's the odds though? Is it 10 good people to 1 stabbing? Because I'd take that.
I honestly feel like it's 5% chance you find a good person, 5% chance you get stabbed, and 90% chance nothing really comes of it. But I actually, personally, I have a very, very difficult time hiring because, that's something I basically, defer to my brother and my cousin to help me do, because they work, on the business end behind the scenes. And I could be really difficult to work with sometimes, because I'm just hire someone. They're okay, what do you want? I'm someone good. And I'm okay, so here's a list. And I'm yeah, but make sure I like these people. And it's we don't know them. They have to come to the house. And I'm well, I don't want them to come to the office if I'm not going to like them. So it's this really weird thing. I've literally, and it's not the way to do it, but it has worked, is some of the people that I've hired, other than the people that started off that were friends, is that I would be doing something, Like for example, our most recent editor, who's amazing. One of the guys that works for me was filming an event. It's really weird. It was like Kylie Jenner comes in a helicopter and eats a birthday cake, and she gets paid like a ton of money, and there was all these cameramen filming it. And my buddy was a cameraman there, and this other guy was a cameraman there, and he was like, "Oh, you're on Epic Mealtime. I love that show. Yeah, I'm an editor." And then like they swapped, and my buddy came back. He's like, "Yeah, I met this guy. He's an editor." I'm like, "Oh yeah, do I like him?" He's like, "I think you would." I did. I'm like, "Okay, cool. Let's bring him over." And he came over, and things worked out. He's like one of, he's a very crucial part of, our production now. And I basically, everyone else that we've hired, like hasn't been through me, because that's just something I'm so bad at doing. Like if I hire someone, and even if it's a 3-month probationary thing, and I hire them and they're not good at their job, maybe it's the teacher in me. I'm like, well, I'm gonna make this guy good over 3 months. Now I'm like working harder to make this person that maybe just isn't at the level that I need them to be. And so basically what I'm saying is I'm bad at hiring. So maybe he's better. He has 60 people.
I think the other side of this, which we should get to at some point, is the firing part of it. And that once you start hiring people, that becomes something that's just in the post at that point. At some point, you're going to have that discussion, as part of management, where you're going to have to part ways with people. That's a whole different thing. But for the hiring part of it, we've always been very focused on our community at Rooster Teeth, and a lot of people that are in online video do that as well. But for us, it was always a huge part of our culture, because our company was front and center in our productions. Our company is in a lot of ways as big a personality as anybody else that works there. It's a big collective. And the way that we live our lives, and we all kind of hang out together, that became part of the show as well. So we were very fortunate with our focus on community that we could identify people in our audience who had amazing talents and who understood what we were doing, and that was the most important part, because we didn't want to have to explain to someone who, for instance, had come from working at a software company, what we're trying to do. It's like these were people who aspired to be part of it. We hired our cartoonist for our webcomic that we had for years. He was just drawing portraits of people on our community. Our social media manager, Barbara Dunkelman, was the most popular person on our website for 5 years in a row before we hired her, so it just made sense. This is the person that's at the top of the community. They should be in charge of our community and our social media. There was some dopey British kid that I met when he was 15, filming stupid videos in his backyard, and hired Gavin Free, and now he's got a bigger channel than I do. I'm not bitter. So it's great. So the focus on community, but that could really only take us, so far. When we needed to hire, a merchandise manager or someone to be in charge of event coordination, those things we had to go outside of our community to do that. But it served us very, very well for a very long period of time. I would say of our first 50 hires, probably 75% of them came from the community, if not more.
Mine's from the community as well. The internship, we posted that on our website, and it was people who were local who just got out of film school or had been watching the videos for a long time. They understood what we did and what our brand was and where we were headed. And that's kind of a scary situation, but when you're leaving for the Amazing Race and you only have a little bit of time to shoot a lot of content and pretend like you're not. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but you know what I'm saying. It was like a desperate measure, and it ended up working out, thankfully. So it's nice because our editor right now, his girlfriend watches our videos, and he is so good. It's the first time we've ever had an editor, because we had another editor for a couple years, and he was great, but we had to give a lot of notes. This guy knew our videos front and back. Like the first time he sent us a video, we didn't even have to make any notes. There was no edits, nothing that we could do to make the video better. He actually took our editing to another level, which is the best. It's like winning the lotto, especially with an editor. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling great right now.
It's so amazing when you get something back from someone and you're like, this is a job I used to do, but I didn't like doing that much, and you're better than me.
Yep.
Capitalism works. Okay, we're gonna, if that's okay, to turn it over to the audience for questions. You got your hand up first, but then you put it back down. She forgot her question. In the hat here. This is on a safari. It's not working. Sure.
Is this working now?
Yeah, there.
Thank you very much. So I create videos under the nickname Professor Elliot, and a lot of our videos are kind of large scale, and we're very much on a shoestring budget at best. A lot of that goes directly into getting to these locations that we're shooting at because they're far away or they require some aspect of budget. How do you, I guess, two-part question. One, how do you recommend creating sort of an incentive for people to join the team if there isn't much of a monetary incentive right off the bat? And two, once there is a monetary aspect, what is that first person that you personally would choose as I need someone in this role for the group?
Right. I think it's different for every, like that second thing, I think it's different for every person. Like it depends on where your pain points are. As to the first one, like if you don't have a good system of compensation that isn't money, then you kind of are talking about having a partnership with that person rather than having an employee or ship or thing with that person.
And yeah, I'd say early on, being able to have only 2 people that both didn't necessarily need to get paid, like to make all the content, we know how to do everything. Once we were trying to then have a director of photography on, or somebody to help us with, the shooting, or the actors that would be in our sketches, or the reactors originally when we first started. The viewership was kind of the exposure that we could get, and the reel building for them to be able to have something on their reel with something that also had viewership was part of like our monetization in a lot of ways for people to want to be involved originally. Once you get to a certain point with scaling and growing your team, you that ability to do those types of things of being like, hey, you'll just do this for free, right? It's like, you even personally, you don't feel right about that. Like you can't even figure it out. You won't do that anymore. But in the beginning, it's amazing when you think back and you kind of go, oh man, remember the days when it was just all about like, let's just do something cool together, right? And now it's like, no, you can't do that. You got to pay people.
Yeah, which is, unpaid internships are deep in the culture of the entertainment industry. I don't love. I don't. I think that like as a trial thing, as long as it's a short period of time and they're in school and learning, then it's acceptable. Like it's a fine thing to do. But like you obviously can't have that be a person that you're going to be working with for years. Yeah.
Oops, sorry. We seem to have a lineup starting. I'm happy to run around, but I'm gonna cede to your.
That's also fine.
Okay, so I guess we are having some people line up. If you guys have a question, come on up here, and I'm gonna have the mic and hand it off.
There's no fair way to do this anyway, so we'll try and run through it as fast as we can.
Hi Hank, me again.
Hello.
So I'm more like a small cap foundation who's not actually planning on making any money. I'm just trying to make the world better. And currently the obstacle is, as I have a day job and kids and stuff, is there a pro bono development resource that any of you are aware of to help create some things that can leverage YouTube, but it's not primarily a YouTube channel, but none of you are particularly nodding, but it was a question I thought I'd put out there.
So you're talking about like an organization that would offer services to bridge the gap between a foundation like yours and then creating an online presence? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know of anything in particular. I think that there's probably a lot of people about, whatever your foundation is supporting is, I'm sure there's people that are passionate about that, that can assist with that. But Hank, I've never heard of anything in particular that does that.
No, me either.
Our volunteers keep getting day jobs.
So someone in this room should start that.
Actually, I did. I'm Professor Frank Chindamo. I teach at Chapman University nearby here, and we've started an advanced web video class. Bernie has actually lectured at my class. Hi, Bernie.
How you doing?
All right. And
Everybody got A's.
yes, he did. Yeah. He cheated, but yes. And we're offering an advanced web video class for basically free for professional YouTube makers, because Chapman is trying to advance their web video presence. And I don't know if any of you guys have had this, maybe you can talk about this, but other than your brothers, have any of you met people at school? Because a lot of my students like 5-second films, they met at school and they went on to make features and things like that.
I mean, a lot of, so we have producers who run SciShow and Crash Course in Missoula, and both of them have relationships at the University of Montana, which is also in Missoula. Nick, who is the producer of Crash Course, taught there, and we've hired some of his students. And yeah, we are constantly in conversation with, and a huge number of people at our company met in school. But I did not. I went to school for environmental studies and chemistry, so none of those people are producing video.
And you speak well about it. Thanks.
And we're based in Austin, Texas. It's a big college town. My production partner, are you guys all from Austin? Are you coming to RTX next week? Yeah, maybe. That was less enthusiastic than the first question. All right, and so my production partner, Matt, I met in college. I was a computer science student, and I just wandered into the film school and just met all my film production friends and said, I want to learn how to do it. And we collaborated on projects, and that's how we got started.
You gotta speak it up.
Hi guys, so my question is for Megan, and you said when you began you hired interns, and my question regarding the interns is whether or not those were college students, and if yes, what were those academic backgrounds?
A handful of them were college students, so they were studying like marketing or they were in film, but then there was other people who just got out of college and needed to do something, and they wanted to kind of get their hands dirty and learn. So does that answer your question? That was it.
Yeah, definitely does. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'll just chime in just because I haven't spoken. Like, so much of our team is has, like, even all the way to the top are from being interns. I mean, some our producers, Vince, are you here? Who's from our team that's here right now? Yeah, awesome. Oh my God, you guys are amazing. Thank you for coming. But so Vince, who is head of creative and head producer of the React channel, who it's pretty much 5 videos a week, and it started as an intern, God, 3-4 years ago now. And we have so many people that have come through that system, and still to this day we hire so many of our employees from the internships. And but for the most part, internships, we do have policies of wanting them to be in school because of the idea of that pressure for that person as well as the company that they don't have a job after they're done with you is more like the idea that they have credit, and that's good and they're satisfied and that's a good experience for them, versus it being that they're now hoping and wishing for that moment to be hired. It's like we're hoping that they are able to come back to us when they get their education and we can hire them.
I found that a lot of the interns that came through just wanted to learn how to become a YouTuber and see what that looked like. A lot of people don't know where to start or how to build a team or what even it takes to put a video together. So that was kind of the benefit. And that was early on. We did that in 2012, 2013. I don't have the internship available anymore, but that was the benefit.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm wondering if you have any advice as far as those of us on the side of wanting to be an intern or an employee to get the attention of a creator. What's the best way to contact a creator, do you think?
Slide in the DMs. I don't know. I remember I said I was bad at that.
Unfortunately, it'd be nice if this industry was growing, like if the money was growing as fast as the views and the attention was growing. I think a lot of people would be hiring a lot faster, and you would see more job postings. But when we need to fill posts, I put them up and tweet them out. Because we hire a lot of people who it's an amazing resource to have an audience to tell about a job, because it can be very difficult to find good people.
We have email addresses that you can send to, especially with internships. We definitely look at those if somebody says, hey, I'm looking for an internship, that definitely gets sent along right away. But it's literally following all the websites that do job postings and waiting to see a job posting come out. We're very traditional in the way that we hire. Right. So you just make sure that you're on the lookout for all those things and see us pop up, and then you'll go through kind of a normal hiring process of submitting your resume and your reel or whatever it might be, to filling out questionnaires, coming in for interviews, etc. But just follow all the different websites.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. We have a very formal process as well. And a lot of YouTube creators, this is their first career and definitely their first time as an entrepreneur. So those first few hires, they're going to make mistakes as well, and those things are going to happen. So You know, if you're looking for something for college credit or trying to build a career, you know, if someone has a more formal process by which they're offering internships, that should be a good sign as well. One of the pitfalls can be if you really, really like something and you're a huge fan of something, and then you go to work for that thing, it kind of takes that away as well. Because if you're working on that thing all day, it's like the experience of loving something as a fan and then doing it as well, it changes remarkably. But you can also work in the same industry and just work and enjoy other things as well. So.
Thank you.
Hi guys. Just sorry to everyone else. Apparently I'm the last question, so I'll try and make it good. So I've been running my channel for 2 years now. It's a group of my friends. We play video games and just kind of try and have some fun, so then people watching will have fun. And we're at the point where we're actually starting to make some money. And up until this point, everything that we've made, we've just put straight back into the channel. So like buying better equipment, buying better games, and you know, any of those cool toys that we wanted to play with as an excuse, we'll play it on the channel. But yeah, so when we get to the point of actually being able to pay each other, how do we split that? Because if we look at it from a point of the amount of time that people put in, like 3 of us edit, like I probably do most of it, but I don't want to take all the money. Like I want to make sure that everyone's getting their equal share, but I don't know how.
I would recommend, as someone that has experience in this, you guys all sit down and handle that immediately, because that'll only get harder and harder every single, you know, video that goes up. And the more money comes in, it'll be more difficult to establish that. And there's always going to be an amount of, oh, who's working more than who, and who's doing what more than what. And the thing about when you set those guidelines is that question of who's doing more, who's doing what, can sometimes change week by week and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
and
you guys
sometimes
just gotta,
like a video that you made 2 weeks ago where someone might not be doing work now, all of a sudden that's blowing up, and someone who was in that, like, do you share it week by week, or do you go by per video, or?
Yeah.
Sure life.
You gotta. That's a now problem. That you should figure out. Yeah, that's a. And it's extremely important, and I think that it requires you to in a way that is not normal with friends, to define your relationship. It's a little bit like being like, okay, are you my girlfriend now? Like, are we dating, or is this just like we're just friends? You are now going to have to like formally establish a relationship with friends, which is a strange thing to have to do, but it's coming from a good thing happening to you, and hopefully everybody feels that way about it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
I can't agree enough with what Harley said. Have that conversation as soon as possible in great detail. And hopefully you have it before the first dollar ever shows up.
Right.
you have to go now. You have a conference call to get on right now. You're late.
Just get back home in Australia, they're all asleep.
Yeah, let's get a shared Google Doc too to write things down so that everyone sees the words and
keep
agrees
physical
to them.
Yeah, keep it all in
It's
writing.
but this is, yes. That was a great final question. I'm sorry we can't take any more.
No, that's right. Just to answer, she's a battle turtle. I'm a battle turtle.
You're a battle turtle.
Yeah, sorry, I was being asked.
Oh, okay. Sorry. We have to end. I'm sorry, but thank you. And thank you all for coming out. Thank you to our panelists.